reason we adopted pubs and working men's clubs and these other things is we understood that people like to drink. And hey, well, how do we help regulate that? People drink together. So Dave goes, Bob, you've had too many. And he shouts over to the barman, and the barman shouts to the fucking taxi guy, and the taxi guy comes and boom, and he's home before he knows it. And the whole village and everybody looked after each other, and everyone would moderate. And then what happens over here in the UK? Tony fucking Blair decides, let's have a cafe culture. Goes to continental Europe and goes, oh, it's really nice here. Look at all this shit. Forgets the fact that the vast majority of this country is freezing fucking cold. I bitch about the weather every goddamn week, being a northerner here. Like, we don't have the same vibe of it. So we just went, licensing laws, we'll adjust to that. And what will happen is people will have a half of a wine in an afternoon with their dinner. Nah, man. Look at the fucking football games now. Look at the fucking gathering that just happened in London. Like, I talked about this thing of that clip that just went viral last week of cocaine. People that are now on the sesh, they're not even doing cocaine as a drug. It's just once cocaine is added to alcohol, that's alcohol plus. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to spice up my alcohol. And actually, the only reason I sniff cocaine is to stay sober. So I get really drunk, and then we get a bag, and then I'm sober again, and I'm fine, and I go again, and I drink more. And then I need another bag though, and then I get sober again, and I've got no problem to that behavior if it was truly informed of the potential damage that they're causing to themselves, if they understood the consequence of where those drugs are coming from. Not for me being a prohibitionist, but if you listen to Colombia and Bolivia, they want a fucking lawful cocaine trade.
Yeah,
they recognize they could help millions of people in their country. They could start to tackle the fucking cartels. They could put billions, if not trillions, over a period of time back into the global system. There's so much good that could be done by just having a rational conversation with people on drugs.
It goes as far as cocaine, to be fair. Like, even just the coca leaves in themselves. Like, if you were able to get access to coca leaves, there's different ways in which you can use coca leaves where it doesn't involve having to snort cocaine in order to get those stimulating effects.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose it wouldn't have the devastating consequences that could be associated with excessive cocaine use, such as massive bills.
Well, I mean, but that's the irony of it. So if you then look at it, the price of a kilo of this video is going to be so just rejected by YouTube for everything that we're talking about. But hey, that happens every week. The price of a kilo of cocaine. Do I have to throw in the word allegedly here, YouTube? Am I going to get in trouble, Spotify? Okay, we'll just keep talking. In one of these countries in northern South America, as in the northern countries of South America, is fucking few hundred dollars relatively. It is fucking nothing. You can imagine, I can't remember what the form of the graph is because it's a long time since I studied math. If you lay over like segments coming from South America up to, say, Miami, there's ringlets where it becomes more valuable as it bounces across because of the number of people that then become necessary to move it.
Yeah.
It's not like cannabis production is now where you need lights and newts and feeds and whatever else. Like coca leaf fucking grows in South America. It grows. And they've had centuries of indigenous use of dealing with like altitude sickness. You chew it, it's been a cultural drug. It's been a spiritual and sort of religious sacrament, and like ritual and rite of passage. And obviously the cocaine industry. And I can't see a problem why you couldn't replace like the kerosenes and the other extremely toxic things that are used in the production of cocaine before it's brought into the European or American market and cut with God knows what. And then to little street corner dudes, the guy that's dropping it off to you and what he's cutting it with and how he's doing. Like, there could be ethical cocaine. There could be ethical heroin. And I think the more we move forward, the more these arguments become kind of self-evident in that if you then provided coca leaf, people are then going to hoard that coca leaf and at home figure out chemicals that they can then mix and make cocaine, and they'll end up on the street. We have to understand these things. The drugs are not the problems. The drugs are a symptom. So if you look at an amazing study by a guy called Bruce K. Alexander, a Canadian psychiatrist, and God, I can't remember his fucking full title. Sorry, my recall isn't too good today. But he created a thing called Rat Park in the 1970s. And it was as a response to the argument that drugs are addictive, full stop. So you had Nixon and Reagan and this lot being like, fucking no, these drugs are going to kill and destroy, and like one pill, one puff of a weed cigarette, a jazz cigarette, and you're addicted for life sort of thing. And what they did is the studies to prove that is they put like rats in horrible cages, confined positions with no food, no stimuli, no nothing, terrified fucking things in places that smell of death and of urine and of feces and all of the horrid things that that animal could dissociate, you know? And then they give it the option of drugging itself. And then they were like, oh, it's really weird. This rat likes lots of drugs. And they were like, ah, oh, everything likes drugs, chemical hooks, bad. And Bruce K. Alexander created this wonderful paradise for these creatures where they had mates, they had friends, they had food, they had stimuli, they had places they could grow and climb. And what they would find is that as the sort of group sort of progressed through their stages of life, as it were, that they would dabble with drugs. But often what they would find is it would be as a form of like self-soothing, a form of rejection. They maybe lost a sexual partner, maybe the missus ate two of your kids, and you go back to the cocaine water, you know, and you're just like, fucking hell. Because, you know, it's stresses of life. And so we can observe from those behaviors the same sort of things. It's like everybody innately is curious to try drugs. There's a reason, I mean, I don't know what other people call it, but we call it dizzy ducks. When kids spin around until they basically fall over before you end going through puberty and you have like a neurochemical death where you purge neurons and shit in your brain and your brain structure actually physically changes, you don't get dizzy in the same way. So what is happening is they're getting high. They're having a neuroendorphic response to it. They are triggering a high sense for themselves. They're self-stimulating with a drug. And these behaviors, like I say, are so intrinsic to us, and we can look at all of those models, but then somehow when we look at society and go, oh, that's his fault, that's her fault, that's their fault, we can't recognize the way. Yeah, but if you lived in a piss-stained fucking sleeping bag under a bridge and you haven't eaten properly in 6 months, you haven't showered in fucking a year, do you know what I'm like?
Yep.
What would be your one thing to go for? That Tesco sandwich that day, or that fucking hit of brown that's gonna make it all go away? Like it's a rational response to an irrational world. And the argument, like you were saying before, all of the people that are like, oh no, but legalization and we can do all these things, and they are still missing the morality. They are still missing the empathy. They don't get it. They're full moralizing and going, oh, we shall save them. We don't need to address our foreign policy and the consequences of that. We don't need to address our domestic policy and houses and right to buy and what fucking Thatcher's legacy has been for fucking 40 years. We don't need to talk about the economics and about these boys from the same school somehow getting to be the leader every single time and us having free elections where the same dickheads rise to the top to do bull dickhead shit. Like we're in this system where of course you are. So whether it's the McDonald's or your cheeky little Starbucks or it's fucking heroin or it's kind of cocaine or cannabis or whatever it may be, wherever it is, whatever it manifests as, you sat there for 4 fucking hours swiping on Tinder. Whatever that, all those behaviors are maladaptive behaviors because our fucking environment is wrong. We need to build Rat Park. We need to get back to this shit. The answer isn't in more of this for all again, all of this technology and all of these conversations. But we should be sat together. We should be free to be around each other. It shouldn't cost us, oh, it's going to cost us a fucking tenner to get on the fucking, get a taxi over to you. And then, oh, well, you've got to have drinks and then minimum of this. And you end up, before you've even sat with somebody, you've spent 20 quid, 30 quid. We just don't have the park bench to sit on. Do you know what I mean? We don't have the green space to meet up at and sit and have a cheeky little smoke at anymore. Like we've lost more and more of the common space to private enterprise. We're getting so close in Europe to the American loitering system, which from all my experience in the States is being in public without spending money. That's what it feels like. And this room's small enough. It's a small enough space I live in. I don't want to self-impose being in here because then I grow to become anxious because I'm inexperienced. The muscles atrophy of socialization. We all experienced that during lockdown. Those first times we got back together and we're like, is it weird? Am I stood too close to you? Like, how do we talk? Like, do you, and like for the first year, I was still like meeting people and like, do you shake hands? Are we still hugged? Can we hug? Because everybody had a different fucking response.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that shows again that these things that, if you were homeless, if you were in deprivation, if you were in distress, if you were in a difficult situation, it can become difficult to figure out how to be you again, how to act with the social norm, to behave to a degree of etiquette that others can believe is the accepted norm, you know?
Yeah, no, you're fucking dead right. We definitely need to improve this place that we live in, make it more like that rat park. It's definitely more less natural, I suppose, the way that we're living these days, especially like fucking the social media, the doomsday scrolling, like you're just the fucking
Mm.
yeah algorithms, the way it's constantly just hitting you with a lot of negative kind of stuff, really. Yeah, it's not natural, and I think the people who are affected by it the most, I suppose, as you say, like are the vulnerable people out there. There is a lot of vulnerable people out there. You know, some people are able to get by and brush it off, and it doesn't affect them so much. But yeah, other people do get pretty fucking affected by the
Mm.
unnaturalness of the world.